Does anyone know what's the number one mistake, foolish? It's in all of us that we all do it once in our life. We always think of it once in our life. Anyone? He contemplated the question for a long time. Then he says that I see someone dies, and a part of my mind says to me, this won't happen to me. Right? When we were young, right? We all like, and why is that there? Because the soul is eternal. So that's why we think like that. But then the soul is thinking, I am the body. So that's the body will go through that, but the soul moves on. So this is one of the material conception when the soul is within the material dimension, how we think. Those who are bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Krishna says here, the Assura, right? He says in the previous mantra, when our deluded mentality, the mood-hearted foolishness, we think that we are the proprietor of everything we have. Yet we can see things slip away from us. And at the time of everything is taken away, Krishna is saying, Mogasa. Mogasa means baffled. Moga karmano, our actions are baffled means when someone is fruitive in their actions, it's very hard to become free from the cycle of birth and death. We call it samsara, the cycle of birth and death. And so when our knowledge, our spiritual knowledge is very low, then you see people are acting, they got knowledge, but it's all about just continuing in this wheel, action and reaction. And so when I read this, my teacher would always say, Cherry, when Krishna makes these statements, he says, we are trying to rediscover our spiritual self. We're trying to become devotees. We're trying. So he used to tell me, whenever you hear Krishna speaks of demoniac mental, Assura, he says, right? He says, Krishna is speaking to you. I was like, whoa, this is a beautiful way of introspection. So here, Krishna says he used the words moga jnana. It means here the knowledge is baffled. Karma, moga karma, your actions are baffled. Then he says, your rakshasha, write this word down, rakshasha. Rakshasas. I'm like, what is a rakshasha? A demonic mentality person. So my teacher used to say, every day we get up is an opportunity to remove our rakshasha from our consciousness. Try and remove the tamas and rajas out of the mind. Then you'll hear the word asura. Again, whenever you put the letter A in front of a word in Sanskrit, it becomes the opposite. So sura means devotee. Asura means an demoniac mentality person. Asura, Srila Prabhupada translates it here as atheistic. Their hopes for liberation, right? So when we are conditioned by the three modes of nature, we're bewildered with our knowledge. And we think knowledge is just about me getting ahead in the material dimension. Then it doesn't stop there. It stops with, I'm going to try and be the best. And for me to be the best, this is a demonic mentality. I am going to try and subjugate everyone lower than me. So I'm going to create hell for other living entities so that they suffer and I get ahead. We see this regularly in our culture from time to time, where someone, if you look in history, right? Everyone wanted, some leader got eccentric and wanted to rule the whole world and everyone should bow down to them, right? We've seen it in many historical cultures. And again, they forget they're just small pecks against the powerful, slow, steady force called time. Time smashes every false ego. It doesn't matter how big of a demon they are, the time element purifies that living entity. So here he's saying someone whose knowledge is not spiritually evolved, it's so easy for them to become atheistic, right? A little child, you're born in this world, you're born on this planet. You have, today, this day and age, you have equal access to become a spiritual devoted to God, or equal access to become an atheist today. It's easily accessible to both. So what drives someone to go this way and what drives someone to go that way? That depends on the soul's karmic purification. Some of my friends who are atheists, they just had a horrible experience with organized religion. So it triggers them to think that way. And that's so easily, how many suffering on this planet in the name of religion has taken place? So much. So when you meet someone who says they're atheist, you have to hear where they're coming from and learn how to empathize with them to a certain degree where, wow. So that's why but then all you have to do for them is to be an example of someone who is spiritually evolving and someone who shows the qualities of non-exploitation, non-jealousy, non-envy. And then they look at it and then something goes on in their consciousness. There's also the spiritual side, and we have to cultivate that spiritual wisdom as well to help to purify our atheistic nature, right? We want to have spiritual knowledge so it helps to purify our selfish actions. We want to cultivate spiritual knowledge so that we can, act in a certain way, which is not demoniac. It says, and if we have those conditionings, the hopes for liberation is very hard. And everyone, this word moksha, is people they're looking for liberation. Liberation from stress, liberation from tension. The mind doesn't get a break from morning to night of a pressure of, just trying to survive in society, right? From morning to night, people get up, they're trying to pay bills. They're trying to make relationships work. They're trying to, make sure the environment, we're trying to keep our mind peaceful. We're trying to live as a law-abiding citizen. We're trying to do all the pros, and sometimes it's like so much pressure on someone that the mind can just snaps. So when you meet someone who is very peaceful and content, it's not that those pressures are not on them, it's that they understand the nature of this material world. They understand the nature of how time works. They understand the nature of temporariness of this dimension. They understand they are a spiritual force. They understand that besides all the pressure and the tension, there is unconditional love around us still. So every day we get an opportunity to become an example for someone, right? And it might be something little you do. You might go in a grocery store and you might see, oh, someone dropped their wallet. Someone behind you was thinking, oh, I should go steal the wallet. But you, so purified, you picked up, hey, excuse me, pick up the phone. And then the person says, thank you. And the person who was thinking to steal the wallet, they get purified. They see an example, right? So in every aspect of our life, we can set an example of Surah, devotional qualities. Because if you don't do that, oh, wow, the Assuric temptation comes in. It is so easy. They're like so together, right? You can be an example of Surah, but I guarantee you, if you didn't do that, you can be an example of Assura instantly. So we have to check our consciousness on a daily basis so that we can remember we are not the proprietor, right? That's one of the previous delusions in the last mantra, right? We are a temporary caretaker of our karmic gifts. So let's go to mantra 13. So Krishna just described the demoniac mentality. This is the opposite side of the coin. Let's meditate on these mantras. Stretch the legs out. Cross the legs back. Bring the palms on the knees. Touch the tip of the thumbs, tip of the next fingers. Close the eyes softly. Bring the whole body into stillness. Bring the mind on the breath at the entrance of the nostrils. Feeling the temperature change, incoming slightly cooler, outgoing slightly warmer. Gazing into the center of the eyebrows, I want you to remember a time when you perform an action which was in the mode of goodness, Surah. You did an action with knowledge, and that action didn't bind you into another reaction of karma. Remember a time when you had knowledge which didn't baffle you, which didn't allow you to perform any action that was binding you. Remember a scenario where you had knowledge, spiritual knowledge, to guide that action. I want you to contemplate the word Mahatma. Means great soul. Recognize you are a divine great soul. You are a Mahatma. As you start to purify the layers of the intellect and the mind, that beautiful great soul is already there. And that Mahatma recognizes that there is divine intervention, divine nature constantly around them. I want you to move back into your memory and remember that moment when you know divine intervention was there from God. And as you relive it, re-experience it, become grateful for the act of God's hand. The Mahatma consciousness kicks in when humility is there. Then every aspect of life we can start to see more and more this divine prakriti, this divine nature of God constantly around us. Every now and then we'll get a big surge of action or a scenario, but even without those big surge, we can still connect to the divine nature around. For the next minute, just sit in silence, feeling the divine nature around you constantly. Take a nice deep inhalation. Exhale slowly. Bring the breath back to normal breathing. Move the fingers, bring the palms to the heart. Lower the brain, the skull towards the higher self, that Mahatma, great soul. Namaste. Lift the head, open the eyes. Thank you all so much.